To the Sports Shuffle. It is January 4th, 2023. I am flying Ryan Gokers along with.
Tampa Motormouth as we're looking at a little bit more usual show of shenanigans tonight.
Yeah, so we are going to update on Damar Hamlin first and foremost. Like we said yesterday, the health of this young man is more important than any of the dumb football scores, recaps, whatever we bring up. It's more important that he is getting healthy and getting better. And so far, we are seeing the signs of improvement with some of his measurements. I know we were talking about yesterday. The ventilator was in 12 to 24 hours, just hoping to start to see some improvements.
And
Pretty much right after we got off our podcast, we got a little bit of a good news update.
yeah, the uncle talked, I think, to the NFL Network and said that his breathing has gone down from 100% needing the oxygen given to him to 50%, and that's definitely in the right direction. And he's still today in ICU, but headed in the right direction. So always a good thing.
Yeah, Buffalo Bills tweeted out Damar remains in the ICU in critical condition with signs of improvement noted yesterday and overnight. So he is expected to remain under intensive care as his health team continues to monitor and treat him. His uncle also said he was resuscitated on the field. He said twice.
And
Then
also at the
Jordan
hospital.
Rooney came, the manager for uh, Damar came out and said, no, it was only the one time. So there's a little bit of controversy, but that means his heart stopped on the field. He was on the way out. So the fact that he is still alive almost 48 hours later is a definite positive. And seeing that things are going the right direction, there is definitely hope that the long-term health of Damar Hamlin will continue to improve. And way too early to speculate on playing career, and there's always that, would you even go back if you had the option after something this traumatic happened? But the good news is positive signs are at least starting. He is still, as far as I'm aware, in sedated and intubated, but hopefully in the next couple of days we'll hear that he continues to improve. Now, to talk about the less important end of this story is the Bills-Bengals game still has not been rescheduled as of yet. They
Yeah.
will be discussing that in the next few days on what to do. No changes to week 18, so they would have to do something kind of weird to fit this one back in, which, I mean, the NFL they have options. I think the easiest one would be to play that solo game somewhere after week 18 and push that bye week in front of the Super Bowl up.
Yeah, since following on that, there was a very good post from Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com, that listed four possible things to do with the game. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's go.
One, cancel the Bills Bengals game and proceed with Week 18. Under the scenario, Chiefs would capture the number one seed by beating the Raiders. Bengals would win the AFC North regardless of the outcome of Cincinnati's Week 18 game against the Ravens.
Yep. Scenario two.
Scenario two, play Bills Bengals this weekend and delay Week 18 by a weekend. This would ensure that every team would play 17 games, but it would complicate the Bills and Bengals to play fairly soon in a time when no one else is playing. It will also eliminate the bye week between the conference championship games and the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's an option. My solution, and I don't know if this is one of the two you're going to bring up soon, is push wild card weekend back 1 week. Get rid of that bye week between the Super Bowl and the championship games, where the Pro Bowl is. Put the championship games on the same day as the Pro Bowl. Obviously, 4 teams that aren't represented, but who cares? And have that Bengals Bills game move to the Phantom Week 19, that bye week that we've now created, where the wild card should have started.
Uh, Scenario three, cancel Bills Bengals and delay Week 18. This becomes English is a hard language. This becomes a potentially attractive option if players throughout the league are struggling to get themselves in the proper frame of mind. And weekend definitely has some cons. It would require AFC playoff seeding to be determined by winning percentages and would eliminate the bye week between the conference championship and the Super Bowl, but it would give all players an extra time being expected to suit up again and play.
And number 4.
Number four, this one's just kind of weird. It's a one that seems to be gaining some traction, but play. I'm trying to figure out what this even means. Play Bills and Bengals during a reconfigured postseason. Maybe you could translate what that means
That's
to
what I was
someone.
saying. Basically, instead of having the playoffs start, what is it, January 10th, 12th, somewhere in that range, no, where calendars are good. Instead of having wild card weekend be the 14th and 15th, have that weekend have only Bengals Bills, move wild card weekend to the 22nd, where the divisional round is currently scheduled, the divisional round to the 29th, where the conference championships are, move the conference championships to that February 5th. I believe the Super Bowl is February 19th, but move that to the same day as the Pro Bowl, have a 1 o'clock, a 4 o'clock, and an 8:30 be the Pro Bowl, and then lose that week between the Super Bowl. So I think that's the best case scenario, because I've got up here the playoff clinching scenarios that are in play if the Bills-Bengals game is outright canceled. The Bengals do win the AFC North, but they lose their path to the number 1 seed and home field advantage, and it eliminates the Ravens, who, if the Bengals lost, would have had a win and win the division game in Week 18 against the Bengals. The Chiefs would clinch with either a win over the Raiders or a loss by the Bills against the Patriots in week number 18. The Bills, who right now, if they win out, would be the number 1 seed, can clinch the 1 seed only with a win against the Patriots and the Chiefs loss. The Bengals could glitch the 2nd seed with a win versus the Ravens and a Bills loss that would go down to strength of victory tiebreaker, where if the Bengals had beaten the Bills outright, they control their destiny for that number 2 overall seed in the AFC. So again, the health of the player, much more important than playoff seeding and scheduling of a game. But it is a factor behind the scenes that is going to be worked out in the coming days. And that's the unimportant standings ramifications of not playing this game. So that's why when Skip Bayless, who was called out on the morning show, I'm not going to go into that, but when he tweeted out, this is such an important game, I don't see how they can just stop it, was a little tone deaf of the situation, but his sentiment of this is an important game for the NFL, for the playoffs, for the league, for what happens next was accurate. And that's where, if this had been a game between the Arizona Cardinals and Chicago Bears, 2 teams that really don't have a lot to play for, draft seeding maybe, that's probably a game this go, you know what? Don't worry about it. I don't care. It doesn't make any difference one way or the other. But being a game with such important stakes in the terms of the league, it's going to be tough for them to just outright cancel the game and move on.
Yeah, because if it was the Atlanta Falcons and the Arizona Cardinals, they could just cancel it and just
Yeah, congratulations. You basically, or just award them a tie and say, look, we're not going to ruin your tiebreaker head to head or anything like that. But the other aspect of this, and we haven't talked about it at all since this happened, is the fantasy football ramifications. Again, this is not as important as the scheduling, which is nowhere near as important as the player's health. So this is so far down the list of importance, but it's been interesting to see how people have reacted to this. I've only seen one person, and unfortunately it came from a league I'm in, that said, damn it, I've only got to get 47 more points to win. For the most part, people have been very amicable. They've been able to communicate back and forth with the 2 teams in the championship game to determine a winner and a loser. If it's a toss-up, there's been a lot of I'm fine splitting it and playing week 18 to determine the champion, but understand, like, if there's a payout, you're going to just split it. I have actually seen several leagues. If you look at the Damar Hamlin GoFundMe that we've talked about, that's almost at $6.7 million as of this time. Remember, it was only at 70 or so thousand total shortly after that game kicked off. There are leagues donating their full pots, their full pool of prize money to this charity, which in some of these cases more than the original $2,500 goal. So sleeper for one is given the ability to go recalculate the scores
Yeah,
if this game does get played
yeah,
in week
yeah,
19, for example?
yeah. Who's kind of up in the air? Basically, their announcement is TLDR, or we're waiting to see what the NFL does, and we'll react to their decision.
Yeah,
Basically,
I mean, it's ESPN is basically leaving them as active players until a resolution is there. Now, ESPN has 2-week playoffs, so I don't know that right now the waivers are all blocked. You can't go pick up players. So it's an interesting wrinkle to this story. It's a non-important, it's a distraction to the situation that we're seeing with Damar Hamlin. It is not important. I don't want anybody who sees this to go, oh, these guys only care about fantasy football. It is so far down the list of priorities with this situation. First and foremost is, of course, the health of Damar Hamlin. But it's interesting. And, some of my leagues, it's like you were going to win anyways. You were down 1.5 points. You had 3 guys going. You got it. And then hopefully it wasn't a major impact, but it is something that's
I
out
can
there.
imagine. I can imagine some of the more spicy replies have been in leagues where you have high stakes going.
Yeah, I mean, we had one where I think the prize pool was 550, 425 to first, 125 to second. The guy who is going to be taking second was actually up by 1.5 points when the game was stopped. So he basically, and I think it was Mixon and Singletary going for the other players. So he basically said, "Look, you're getting another 1.5 points of those 2 guys. It's yours." So hopefully that's the way. And the same guy in another league suggested, it was the same league as the 47 points to win. He suggested, hey, let's just throw the money at the charity and play week 18 for the championship. That was turned down, unfortunately, but some people are just little not sensitive to the subject that's going on in the world. So that is Damar Hamlin. That is Bills Bengals. We are going to do our recap of week number 17. And try and do a final thought. Hopefully, not too far off of serious this time, but we'll see. But I do
Oh,
want to emphasize that we're trying to bring a little bit of normalcy to this podcast while understanding that this is a distraction for most people to the events of the real world. And unfortunately, the real world is coming into what we use as a distraction. So it's a big priority of ours to make sure we know that Damar Hamlin is okay, that we wish him the best, and to try and proceed. I think the fantasy footballers say is we're trying to move forward, not move on. And I think that's a very good takeaway. We're not trying to forget about this and put it on the back burner. It's just we're trying to move forward with what we've got. And obviously, if this game gets rescheduled or Damar Hamlin gets better, life will get a little bit easier to move forward. So,
amen.
yeah, it's a tough road to walk when you want to be sensitive to a subject but still talk about the stupid ball sport
Yeah,
game that we are going to be talking about here soon.
yeah. Because one of the people that I did listen to on a fairly regular basis, Jeff Ratcliffe, I mentioned him before from the Fantasy Sports Channel, started his show saying that he was talking still more, of course, about the Damar Hamlin situation, but then he said, "I'm going to talk about fantasy sports. It's what I do for a living."
Yeah, they've got to do their job. I know the fantasy footballers started with about 20 minutes of Damar Hamlin talk, and some of it was goofy and wordplay that they always do, but it was very, very serious when they talked about the man and his health. So, again, continued wishing for the best. Keep donating if you can.
Yeah,
You be raising $7 million as an NFL community in 2 days for this
it
man
was
and what he
interesting.
believes in.
It was interesting hearing the Mike Tomlin clip because apparently he knew Damar Hamlin when he was 12, so there's a definite personal connection there.
And before we move on to the games from Sunday that did occur, everybody who's come out and talked about Damar Hamlin, not that anybody's going to come out and say anything negatively at this point, but they talk about his character and how giving and how charitable and how he wanted to improve other people's lives. So to see everybody respond and donate to help that be a reality going forward is amazing. Seeing rivals. I mean, the Dolphin Stadium was lit up in blue and red. That is a division rival. I would consider that the arch rival of the Miami Dolphins. They are showing their support that way. Every other stadium and every other team showed their respect on Twitter by changing to Pray for Damar. That same picture everybody has seen and knows, Pray for Damar with the number 3. Every team has made that change as their profile picture. Everybody's wished well. Coaches and teams have still kind of avoided media availability for the most part, but I know Mike McDaniels for the Dolphins just said it's heartbreaks for the kid and his family. Couldn't imagine going through it himself. The sentiments we've all thought for a couple days now. Can't imagine what's going on with this individual. So, with that being said, let's move on to what happened on Sunday, or we'll start with I guess Thursday. Cowboys 27-13 win over the Titans. No Derrick Henry. Joshua Dobbs looked good, but the Cowboys, they get the win. They moved to 12-4 at the time. Game and a half behind Philadelphia, still had hopes at the number 1 seed and the division title.
Yeah, this was pretty much the Dalton Schultz show with the Cowboys. You have to give Tennessee's credit. Tennessee came up with the new state here. Have to give Tennessee some credit. They did have some fight. Their defense definitely proved a little bit trickier than you thought for the Cowboys, as Dak Prescott didn't exactly what you would looked picture perfect. I think anything but especially if you ended up trying to go with the spread, that was a push, and that under just about zero point 0.5 away from not covering. So definitely a tricky game, as every Thursday night football one has been, as you could just tell Dallas was missing some of their juice in the game for their offense, as Zeke just couldn't do much of anything. His usual performance, as Hassan Haskins, obviously no Derrick Henry by any stretch of the imagination, but I think the Titans have a decent backup quarterback, just absolutely brutal, and I hate to think about how they're going to have to do against the Jaguars.
It doesn't look good for Tennessee. We'll do our picks in a couple days, but it doesn't look good for Tennessee. But anything can happen. They're going to get Henry back going forward. All right, going to Sunday. Arizona losing to Atlanta 20-19. Desmond Ritter's first win as an NFL quarterback. The Cardinals now on David Blau. I think he's going to start this coming week as well. No DeAndre Hopkins. So the Cardinals are completely falling apart. They've mailed it in. 4-12, probably going to end up 4-13 as they just kind of really a rough season. They play San Francisco the last week of the season, with San Francisco a lot to play for. So don't expect good things from them. But the Falcons 6-10 cannot win the division, cannot make the playoffs, but they're looking to see what they've got in the future. And I think they got some, at least some semblance of an answer on Desmond Ridder in his last few games. With his first win, a good step in the right direction.
I thought you were going to do like the old soundbite: "Cannot win with him, cannot coach him." I thought you were going down that
I
road,
wasn't going that far.
but for something new for all the Sunday games I'm doing what I call my game ball, my game goat, and what I call a quick reaction. The game ball definitely has to go to Ritter. Finally had a competent day, actually better than White and Lawrence. So that's something to take into account. The goat definitely had to be Michael Pruitt and Drake London. I'm sure if you were starting them, you were expecting maybe a little bit more. And just quick reaction: the game was Atlanta won with a field goal in a game that was absolutely meaningless.
Yeah. Game that wasn't meaningless for both playoff and draft reasons. Bears Lions. Lions win 41-10. Not really a competition. Justin Fields is going to be out this coming week with a hip injury. Was injured in this game. Did return, but just not going to stay there. Bears need a Texans win and a loss by themselves next week to get the number 1 overall pick. The Lions 8-8. They are going to be the Sunday night football game against Green Bay. Depending on the Seattle result, they will have a chance as a win-in game against the Green Bay Packers on Sunday Night Football.
After I do my ball goat and quick, I actually do have 2 Sport Shuffle audibles for this game. As of course, game ball Swift, welcome back, sir. Hope Detroit gets into the playoffs. It's nice seeing a good day from DeAndre Swift. It's been a long, hard season for him. Goat. Hate to bring up the sun god here, but St. Brown didn't exactly have the kind of day we have all come to expect from him. And the quick reaction is Lions bounced back after a loss last week to Carolina. Swift, of course, has a good week finally in the fantasy playoffs in the two audibles. Uh, Dan Campbell on potentially knowing that they'll be eliminated before their kickoff on Sunday night. Quote, there's one objective, and that's winning this game. It's us or nobody. The intensity of this game will be like a playoff game. So just hoping they're not eliminated. And the other one that are you ready to chortle?
Oh no. Oh no.
From Adam Scheffner, Bears quarterback Nathan Peterman will start in place of Justin Fields on Sunday versus the Vikings. Almost makes you sad you can't pick, the Vikings defense for fantasy because Nathan Peterman is horrible.
Yeah, he's not great. So we'll move on to a team that's looking very good lately. Jaguars 31-3 win over the Houston Texans. Bad day from Trevor Lawrence, but that's because they didn't need him to be good. The Texans looked as bad as they've looked in recent weeks. The Jaguars look like they are rolling towards the playoffs. They have a win-in game against the Tennessee Titans. They win. They win the AFC South. They clinch the number 4 seed. That game will be on Saturday, along with Chiefs and Raiders on Saturday the coming week. We'll get to the picks later. All the running backs got a touchdown in this game for the Jaguars, and then this one was over by halftime.
Yeah, because game ball this one to Travis Etienne. Welcome back, Mr. Etienne. Nice to see you again. Go. This one is easy with all those freaking points scored. Zay Jones, all the hype. Got to pick this guy up. He's really going to help you. That's like, what happened? And of course, just the quick reaction. Game was absolutely meaningless as Jacksonville is going to absolutely pummel the Titans next week.
That's what it seems like. All right, moving forward. Chiefs 27-24 win over the Broncos. The second time the Broncos have put a good fight up against the Chiefs and come up just short. Pat Mahomes is still an absolute superhero, and the Chiefs, we'll see what happens with this possible rescheduled game. But right now, they have to be focused on winning this game because it could be what gets the path to the Super Bowl in the AFC through Arrowhead Stadium.
And game ball definitely to Mahomes magic. You got to always give it to Mr. Pat. GOAT, sadly, Sutton and Judy combined. Ouch. And quick reaction for this game is Denver had the coach got can power up, but Casey and Patrick Mahomes was like going, I don't think so. Nope, not today.
Yeah, Albert Aguabanom with a resurgence with Greg Dulcich out was interesting to see.
+1 for being able to say that last name without a hitch.
Aguabanom. I've done a lot of practice with that one. I thought he was going to be a good player this year, and then Greg Dulcich gets drafted, and all of a sudden, all that Aguabanom practice is useless. So, all right, next up, Patriots win 23-21 over the Dolphins. Both teams 8-8. The Dolphins started backup quarterback Teddy Bridgewater before he broke a pinky finger on his throwing hand, giving way to Skylar Thompson. Not a good situation to be starting your backup, let alone third-string quarterback. The Dolphins have picked up Mike Glennon for their practice squad because
former Buccaneer.
Former Buccaneer, former career backup, really, because you don't know if Skylar Thompson's going to be able to get it done against the Jets. The Patriots, if they can beat the Bills, which a lot of subtext to this game with the mental state of the Buffalo Bills. If they can beat Buffalo next week, they will clinch that number 7 seed and make the playoffs. The Dolphins need the Bills to be able to play that game and win it and beat the Jets to jump back in to the playoffs.
Game ball for this one. Surprisingly, I'm shocked. Mac Jones, game goat. Yeah, that would be pretty much the whole Dolphins team. They're falling fast and fading even faster. And just a quick look. Miami's day was much worse than the scoreboard indicated. They could be out of the playoffs based on what happens next week.
The good news is the Bills are one of the best teams in football. The Patriots are the team in front of them. It's only going to come down to the Dolphins, the Patriots, or the Pittsburgh Steelers, which we'll get to here in a little bit.
And there's this from the from Outkick from the Fins Talk Sports Network. Mike McDaniel, Chris Greer, and Josh Boyer's jobs are at risk if the Miami Dolphins lose against the Jets and miss the playoffs next Sunday.
Well, Sean Payton's out there. I mean, there's incentive to, if they're not happy, to move on. We'll see. Giants 38-10 win over the Indianapolis Colts. The Giants have clinched a playoff spot. They are locked into that number 6 seed in the NFC, the Colts. Nick Foles took a scary hit in this game and was convulsing on the fields. Obviously, the hit was kind of overshadowed by the celebration by Kayvon Thibodeau. Rolled off, and Nick Foles absolutely did not know what was going on behind him as he's doing snow angels next to a convulsing Nick Foles. He said once he realized, he obviously felt guilty, horrible, and wanted to help in any way he could. But unfortunately, that's like the highlight that sticks out from this game, because the Giants and Colts was not a game. It was just an absolute beatdown. Giants 9-6-1, first time in the playoffs in a very long time. The Colts, they can't wait for the season to end.
Yeah, game ball definitely to Danny Dimes living up to the hype. GOAT, even though I know he ended up getting hurt pretty badly, still have to give Nick Foles the GOAT because pretty badly. But then again, it's so is the entire Colts offense. Is just a quick reaction. This game is Indy sucks, and as you mentioned, the Thibodeau celebration that I believe it was earnest and honest that he didn't know that Foles was legit hurt because Saturday, of course, got after him for being trash and classless. And Brian Dable, of course, did defend him, saying he really didn't know
Yeah.
that Foles was hurt. So, you had to
If you
believe
watch
it.
the play, he hits him and rolls off of him into the snow angel. It's not like he got up, saw him, and then fell back down and did the snow. He literally made the sack, rolled in one motion, and then was flat on his back looking at the stadium ceiling. So I believe he didn't know it, and it looks bad, but I believe it's innocent enough.
Plus, also saw that he tends not to have a history of bad or dirty hits. So got to lean the whole what he said. Yeah, he really
Yeah,
didn't
give him the
know.
benefit of the doubt for now. And fortunately for Nick Foles, not a very serious situation long term. Um, he should be fine going forward. Not going to be available next week, but I don't know how much that matters. All right, next up, Saints 20-10 win over the
Wow,
Philadelphia the Eagles.
one of
This
the
is
stunners of the day.
now no Jalen Hurts for the Eagles has been a negative result. 0-2 with Gardner Minshew. This one not quite as good. The Saints get the job done. Unfortunately, because of the results of the next game we get to, they are not going to have playoff eligibility. They're going to be missing again. They are right now second place in the NFC South, which, for what it's worth, is not the worst thing you could have. But the Eagles, it looks like Jalen Hurts will be back. They still have to win a game or have losses by the Cowboys or 49ers, and to clinch that number one overall seed in the NFC.
The game ball for this one, definitely it's a three-way tie for Dalton, bouncing back nicely after that horrid week last week. Taysom Hill, ditto, who didn't have a lot of bang for his buck last week, but this week
Had as
surprised
many
against.
carries as Kamara in this game.
Yeah, and Alvin Kamara definitely a little bit more competent than recent. The GOAT has to be the Philly defense. Good God, is just the quick reaction for this one is the Saints stun the Eagles. The Eagles need to hope that Hurts is healthy to go in for the playoffs. Giants D next week. Eagles could be limping into the playoffs.
Well, the good news for Philadelphia is the Giants have nothing at all to play for. They're probably going to sit Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones for at least part of that game. The Eagles, though, they have to win it to clinch that number one overall seed. That would give Jalen Hurts an extra week of rest before they have a playoff game. So maybe that's an extra incentive. If he's good enough to go, give him some kind of either injection or some brace or device to help that shoulder out. They got to get the win. All right, next up, the NFC South has been clinched by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at a paltry 8-8, a 30-24 win over the Carolina Panthers. All gas, no brakes, Mr. Mike Evans. Not one, not two, but 3 touchdowns in this game. The 7th highest fantasy
Like
output
like
game.
like Sesame Street. Not one, not two, three,
Yes. The 7th highest fantasy output by a player the week of the fantasy Super Bowl with 48.7 in, I believe, half point PPR scoring in that one. Big game for the Buccaneers. Tom Brady looked his best. Mike Evans looked his best all season. Godwin was solid. Fournette and Rachaad White a little bit disappointing, but the Panthers blow a golden opportunity to get the control of their division and possibly a playoff berth. But the Bucs, They get the job done. Tom Brady get back to the playoffs, and with Tom Brady, you never know.
And game ball that's easy this time
I like the
around.
Evans.
Brady and Evans
Brady and
because
Evans.
yeah. You just look at the fantasy, you look at the reality. Boom, game goat. Also, unfortunately, easy, especially if you started as one of them. Yeah, Fournette and White went as the quick reactor. Bucks don't do anything easy. Nice to see the old Mike Evans. Bonus Bucks win the division, even though that game legit came down to the last play because Carolina actually had a shot to win it late. Oh,
Oh, yeah. All right, next up, Browns 24-10 win over the Washington Commanders. The Commanders, with this loss, have been eliminated from playoff contention. The Browns now 7-9, look like they're going in the right direction. Maybe Deshaun Watson starting to find a little bit of a rhythm. That was the hope for the Browns. Again, I said a couple weeks ago, I think they knew there's a lost season. They're hoping at the end of the year they feel comfortable with where they're at so they can see where they're going. The Commanders, though, they started Carson Wentz. It looks like next week it's not going to be Wentz or Heineke. It's going to be the rookie whose name is slipping my mind right now, but they're going to start a rookie at the quarterback position. I'll find the name here shortly. But yeah, interesting development there that is not going to be, of course, I don't have the notification on my phone anymore. Sam Howell is going to be starting for the Washington Commanders on Sunday.
That's not exactly a name that like leaps right out at you anyway.
Yeah. Sam Howell's first NFL start next week for the Commanders against the Dallas Cowboys, who have a lot to play for in their own right.
Yeah, this one game ball, surprisingly, Amari Cooper, he's kind of had off and on weeks all year as game goat. Normally, you might think Wentz, but I'm actually giving this to Rivera for two reasons. I know he's had a good year. You know, Washington Commanders have definitely done better than anyone thinks that they would have done initially, but Rivera gets the game goat number one for putting in Wentz, and number two for not knowing a loss eliminated them from the playoff picture. As
It didn't on its own. You needed Seattle, you needed Green Bay, you needed Detroit, you need all these teams to win. But it did. Anyways, next up. Oh,
a
go
quick
ahead.
reaction for this one is maybe maybe starting Wentz was not ideal.
Yeah, we'll see what goes on next year. All right, the San Francisco 49ers 37-34 overtime win over the Las Vegas Raiders. Jared Stidham looked fantastic in this game, just not quite good enough to get the win. Of course, the Raiders defense has been atrocious. Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, Brock Purdy, pretty much anybody you could have started from either side. Devontae Adams had a massive game. Darren Waller had a touchdown. Josh Jacobs very good. So if you had pretty much any side of this in fantasy, you were pretty happy. The Raiders, though, eliminated with this loss. Everything else had kind of broken correctly for them to have some life into week
'Didn't they
18.
have like less than 1% of chance of getting in anyway?
0.1% chance to start the day.
It was infinitesimal.
And when this game went to overtime, everything that needed to happen to that point had happened. But San Francisco, 9 straight wins, have still not lost a game since they got Christian McCaffrey. They look like an absolute juggernaut.
On their third string quarterback.
Who's looked very capable.
Game ball for this one. Have to give it to Jarrett Stidham. His future is bright. I know he lost, but still, to be able to hang in there with the 49ers, that's big. Game goat, that would be the under for this game. And shocking shootout of the day. Quick reaction, if the Raiders can draft some O-line and some D-line, they need all the lines, they might be a better team for 23.
Yeah. Next up, Seahawks 23-6 win over the New York Jets. Mike White. He turned back into that backup we all know, and hope never shows back up. The Seahawks 8-8 win, and they have to wait on the results of the Sunday Night Football game. With a loss next week, they will be eliminated. It's still surprising to me that the Seahawks have playoff aspirations. The Jets are eliminated with this loss, so they are done. They cannot go to the playoffs. They face Miami on Sunday. It's maybe a win just for the pride, win to screw over a rival. Maybe it does shake up the front office and head coaching situation for a rival. So not as big of a game as the Jets were hoping for next week, but still important for other reasons.
Game ball for this one, definitely a surprise name. Uh, Probably somebody that people started with a dart throw. Abraham Lucas, a name on nobody's radar going into this week. Game goat, as you mentioned, Mike White. How do you struggle against the league's worst defense?
It happens
How?
sometimes.
And
Very young roster for the Seahawks. It's getting better though too.
quick reaction. This one, just New York is fizzling just like the fish.
Yeah. Next up, the Green Bay Packers, a big win and an absolute statement win, 41-17 over the Vikings, and I would argue the score was not that close. Kickoff return and defensive touchdown. At one point, the Packers had more points in the first quarter than they had yards. But the Vikings were out of sorts from the start. Justin Jefferson,
Boy,
just nothing in this game. One catch for 15 yards. Actually had Zaire Alexander do the gritty on him, which is his signature touchdown dance, of course, when he gets continually shut him down in this one. The Packers, they will face the Lions on Sunday Night Football. Win and in for the Packers. For the Lions, they need to win and hope the Seahawks lose. The Seahawks need the Packers to lose and win. That's that 7-seed race in a nutshell. But the Packers, they're getting red hot at the right time.
game ball definitely to the Packers special teams. Big in this game. Game goat. This is actually a three-way tie. The entire flipping Vikings defense won. Kirk Cousins, number two, and that name that you mentioned, number three, Justin Jefferson, who definitely, if you started him in fantasy, got the you get nothing, you lose good day, sir. Oh boy.
Yeah. Packers, though, winning in. Who would have thought 4 weeks ago that's what we were talking about?
Who would have thunk it?
All right, next up, the Battle of LA. The Los Angeles Chargers win over the Rams 31-10. Cam Akers is, I think the resurgence is real, people. He's going to be around next year with this Rams team. He's got a shot to be a dark horse in fantasy. The Chargers, though, 10-6. They are going to be either the 5 or 6 seed, depending on what happens with the Ravens against the Bengals. Ravens we'll get to in a second. But the Chargers look like another team, getting hot at the right time, playing some of their best football. They're getting healthier, where a lot of teams like the Dolphins are getting more and more injured. But they're getting healthier. The Rams, they're ready for next season. Big game for them against the Seahawks. Can at least take down a division rival out of the playoffs with a win over Seattle.
Yeah, this one game ball is easy. Gentlemen, we're used to being very successful all year. One, Mr. Austin Eckler, who has probably started himself in every single game. Game goat. This one, sadly, you're just trying to figure out, who on the Rams to give it to. And I think definitely the offense, since you had Baker Mayfield sort of doing miracles and coming back late, but yeah, not against the Chargers. No, sir. As just a quick reaction. This one is Chargers are ready for their coach to do something really stupid in the playoffs, and go Herbert. He actually completed 21 for 28 passes, and maybe not quite what you're used to, but still pretty darn good day. And it's nice to actually talk about Herbert finally going to the playoffs. How long has he been in the league? This is insane.
Third year. Hasn't been there yet. All right. Next up and lastly on the week.
Ugly game.
Kind of expected. The Steelers 16-13 win over the Baltimore Ravens gets the Steelers to 8-8. Ravens fall to 10-6. We won't know the ramifications of the Ravens game on Sunday with the Bengals for the division until we get clarification on the Week 17 Bills-Bengals reschedule or cancellation. So I can't really say if the Ravens have any shot at anything better than the 5 or 6 seed or not. The Steelers, though, have played their way back to 500. Mike Tomlin, of course, famously has never had a season below 500. They will be playing the Cleveland Browns on Sunday. And not only have the Steelers played themselves into a possible winning record for Mike Tomlin, they've also brought themselves back into playoff consideration. They need a Patriots loss, a Dolphins loss, and a Steelers win to steal that 7 seed, which did not, like the Green Bay Packers, did not look possible just a few weeks ago. Kenny Pickett and this offense still struggling, but this defense, now they got Watt back, looks much, much better.
Yeah, as a game ball, this one was easy as I still cannot ever forget Najee Harris, who broke my fantasy heart last year. Can't ever forget that, but giving him the game ball for this ugly, ugly game. Game go. You have to say the officials because they were horrid this game. And just a quick reaction Pittsburgh, the better team, as Baltimore misses Lamar Jackson in a big, big way.
Yeah, he's also missed practice again.
Went, went.
So we'll see if he can go in the next game. So, all right, we are not doing Super Bowl suck today. Um, One thing I do want to bring up is the playoff clinching scenarios for the NFC. Of course, the AFC is shrouded in a lot of unknowns because of the Damar Hamlin cardiac arrest event. We don't know what's happening with that game. Again, wishing him the best. Um, but we can't really talk about the AFC outside of that 7 seed discussion because there's a game tied up that we can't really quantify.
Everything is legit up in the air right now.
Yeah, legitimately, because the Bengals, Chiefs, Bills can all finish 1-3. The division for the AFC North is still up in the air, and all of that's going to be just from that one game that is right now in postponement. So we can't really go too deep into it. So talk about the NFC because that's what we can actually put the scenarios to. The Eagles clinch the NFC East division title with a win or a Dallas loss, and they clinch the first overall seed in the NFC with a win or a Dallas and San Francisco loss. San Francisco has already clinched the NFC West. They can clinch the 1 seed with a win and a Philadelphia loss. The Cowboys, right now, the 5 seed could win the NFC East with a win and a Philadelphia loss, and can clinch the #1 overall seed with those same two factors and a San Francisco loss. So that is your #1 seed race. For the #7 spot, the Seahawks, with a win and a Green Bay loss, would clinch the 7 spot. Where for the Lions, they need to win and Seattle to lose. And for Green Bay, the simplest path, just win and in at home against the Detroit Lions on Sunday Night Football. So, um, no new news I'm seeing on Damar Hamlin. Very happy to see that he is showing signs of improvement, of course. Making sure this is not from today, this little news story here. Yeah, it's still about the uncle saying he's been hospitalized, but down to 50% on the ventilator. So hopefully we'll get more of an update tomorrow. His charity, again, almost hitting 7 million, or his GoFundMe towards the charitable organization hitting 7 million very soon. So yeah. Now, Joel, I don't know what your plan is for a final thought, but we'll turn it over to you.
My final thought: something maybe a little bit more lighter, but not too light. But you end up having a rather interesting PGA tour where you had the Masters send the invitation to the wrong person. I don't know if you've heard the story or
I
yet.
didn't I didn't see the whole thing, but I did see the headline.
What happened is you have Scott Stallings, who's a professional golfer, was waiting for the mail and the invitation for the Masters to come, and is like, okay, hasn't arrived. So I was like, hmm. Then he gets a curious message on Instagram in his DMs, and it says, "Hi Scott, my name is Scott Stallings." It's a different Scott Stallings, actually. As well, I'm from Georgia. My wife's name is Jennifer too. We have a condo. I received a FedEx today from the Masters inviting me to play in the Masters tournament April 6 to 9, 2023. I'm 100% sure this is not for me. I play, but wow, nowhere near your level. It's a nice package, complete with everything needed to attend. I think we have some confusion because of our names, our wife's names, and geographical locations. I can be reached at, and obviously the number is blacked out, and I am more than happy to send this package to you. And the next picture is, I'm not really kidding, I promise, and it's the entire package, and everything worked out. The real Scott Stallings received the packages, and as a nice thank you, he's actually taking out the other Scott Stallings to Augusta when everything happens. He's treating him to practice round and dinner for doing the right thing. So it's just nice to know that there are decent people out there.
Does he get to play Augusta with the correctly named golfer, or does he just get to watch?
I think he actually gets an actual practice round.
That's amazing because that's something you cannot do. That is invitation only, so that is a once in a lifetime type of opportunity. So
It
good
is
good on you. Um,
Augusta is like a sacred ground to the world of golfing.
yeah, it's absurd. Um, you mentioned seeing the good in people. We've already talked about the charitable donations to Damar Hamlin's toy drive. I did see something today regarding the Bengals and Bills that was kind of oddly phrased, but very accurate. And it was a picture of, it's a very viral picture at this point, of Joe Burrow hugging a very clearly crying, distraught Josh Allen. And the caption was, "What is the opposite of rivals?" Because Cincinnati and Buffalo have had this weird symbiotic relationship. Of course, we mentioned the Andy Dalton knocking out, I don't remember who they knocked out, but got the Bills in the playoffs for the first time in 25 years. And all the Bills
Everybody
Mafia
donated.
donated 25, or was it 12 or $25? I don't remember which
I
one.
forget. I
14 or
forget.
25.
It was a pretty big amount, though.
It was 14 or $25 per person to his charity, and it raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for that as a thank you for knocking this team out. And now we have this scenario where it seems like these two teams just get along. Even though if they play this game or meet in the playoffs, they will be competitive. They will be fighting tooth and nail to win the game. It seems like there is something about these two teams that just works together and has a very good relationship. And that's something you don't always see in sports, is the brotherhood between, let alone individuals, but full teams. We've seen the NFL community rally around Damar Hamlin and the Buffalo Bills organization this week. I do want to give credit to the Buffalo Bills fans and the fans of the NFL around the world for all the shows of support. Again, we've talked about the donations on end because it's massive. Six and a half, $7 million in 2 days. That's impressive if it was, the Red Cross, let alone because some guy, and Damar Hamlin's not well known. He was not well known before this. Joel, I don't know if you could have picked him out of a crowd or told anything about him before this event. So
No, there
to
wasn't
rally
that.
around this kind of lesser known player is truly an inspiring thing. And to see the city of Cincinnati, all of the vigils, all of the warm wishes, the symbiotic, I mean, both teams are just raving about how the other team handled it and
Because,
how professional and courteous they were.
because I know there's a moment when they were waiting for the parents of the Hamlin, and two individuals came down in Hamlin jerseys, and they figured, because I forget who it was that was talking, but they said they figured that had to be the two right people because there aren't too many Hamlin jerseys that are probably sold.
Yeah, I mean, I looked to see if it was available. And it is. If you look on Fanatics or NFL.com, it is available. Hopefully, the Bills, and I would love to see the NFL or the Bills kind of promote it, sell his jersey to raise money for something, because if he survives this, he's going to be an inspiration, especially if he ever returns to the field, which we talked about. The soccer player, Erickson, I believe is his name.
I sincerely hope the Bills are taking care of all of the hospital bills.
They will. He's on the roster. He's got that insurance. So that's not, fortunately for them, the financial implications is not a risk for Damar Hamlin. But we've seen the Bills talk about how gracious these fans in Cincinnati were, how gracious Zach Taylor and this organization of the Bengals was from top to
Yeah,
bottom.
you had Bills fans and Bengals fans holding candlelight vigils outside the hospital.
Yeah,
That's
arm in arm. I actually saw a picture of someone in a Chargers jersey doing the same outside of the hospital in Cincinnati. I mentioned yesterday I've seen it from pretty much every team saying best of wish from Steelers Nation, from Seattle, from
Tom Brady had a
Tom
very
Brady with the
nice
$10,000 donation. I know for a fact I saw fins up young man to this guy, and that's it. The goodness that we're seeing come out of people is truly inspiring, and I hope sincerely that he gets better for his own sake. But just to see the amount of love that's thrown his way in a time of need, and the money for the donation, so he can be passionate about giving back to children, I really hope he comes through. I don't care about his playing career. That is going to be up to his health and his personal decision making. Whatever he wants to do, I hope happens. But to come back and he's going to be able to make a difference one way or the other if he can survive this and get back on his feet, whether he plays again or not. Again, football is not as important as the man's life, and he can do a lot of good. He's getting a lot of donations to help kids in his local community, and he can definitely turn this event into a massive positive down the line. And from everything I've heard, he's the kind of individual that would do just exactly that. So again, best wishes to Damar Hamlin and his family. Thanks to everybody who's contributed to that GoFundMe account. I know I threw something in the night this had happened, and I'm glad to see it wasn't just me who said I want to do something. Um, and yeah, we'll see what happens with the game, whether it gets rescheduled or not. We'll see about week 18. Bills Patriots not really on the docket to be moved as of right now, but you got to think that the Bills are going to have some input on whether that game gets played on Sunday, whether that gets moved maybe to Monday or Tuesday. What's going to happen with that Bengals game? They're going to have a lot of input here, but yeah, Cincinnati and Buffalo have this like small town, hearty, good people vibe that just works together, and it's kind of an awesome thing to see. Two teams that they're going to be going head to head for years to come with Burrow and Allen, and to see them have such a respectful friendship between the two organizations is just really awesome. So, final thought: good job to the city of Cincinnati, the fans of Cincinnati, the coaching staff, the team, everybody with the Cincinnati Bengals. Also, one quick note: if anybody is giving crap to T. Higgins, stop it. I saw T. Higgins was getting not a lot, but some hate.
He was not
Um,
doing it on purpose.
he was making a routine play. That is a tackle. I don't know if you've watched Pat McAfee's show or heard him. He said that is a tackle that legitimately happens 60 times minimum every single game. You multiply that by how many games. This is a completely freak occurrence. So if you're going after T. Higgins, he's been nothing but gracious. He's been remorseful, even though it's not his fault. He has been depressed over this. I know it's got to eat at him knowing that even if this is a freak accident, I'm going to mess up the name, but the Comois chorus or whatever, where you get the chest impact and it messes with the heart rhythm, even if that is the root cause, that he lowered his shoulder to try and get an extra yard on the play, like he is taught to do, like every NFL player is taught to do, even if that is the simple root cause of what actually happened, that is not his fault. This is horrific luck. This is horrific circumstances, not malice, not intent. And you cannot go after a guy like T. Higgins, who is just trying to play the game. And he walked out of there arm in arm with his mother on the verge of tears hours after this game was called. So, Cincinnati and Buffalo fans, you've done amazing to show support for each other's organizations. To the Josh Allen,
You,
the everybody's gone back and forth and just giving credit to the other side for being so
you,
great and so gracious, and thank the medical professionals on site as well. So awesome to
you,
see that.
you have vicious players like Dom Su, Vontez Perfect, and T. Higgins is the total complete polar opposite of that.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's in shock with what happened. And if you're going after T. Higgins or worried about your fantasy football, I needed so many points, shame on you, because that's not important. None of it's important. Work on your fantasy football stuff with your league. Don't, just don't. And again, T. Higgins has been nothing but professional and gracious through all of this. And we're really hoping on Friday when we come back for our picks that we can say Damar Hamlin is recovering, that he is no longer on a ventilator, that he is no longer
Maybe
sedated, that
even
he is
maybe even
back
out
to
of
normal.
ICU.
Yeah,
Maybe out of ICU.
he's not in critical condition, because he's still in critical condition. But if he got to fair condition, stable condition, something where it's clear on the medical side that it is a marked improvement. I mean, they've got him laying on his stomach while he's incubated because it helps the flow of liquid out of the lungs and it helps the body work less hard. Get him out of that. Show that, hopefully we will have a lot more to say about the improvements of Damar Hamlin on Friday.
Here,
So,
here, amen.
With that being said, we are going to come back Friday. We're going to do our stupid pick'em. We do have a new leader in the pick'em, so
Yeah, the one who is very, very humble about it.
hey,
Not.
I didn't say anything until just now. And if that game is rescheduled, it could change the thing because we disagreed on that game. So Joel actually picked Cincinnati, I picked Buffalo. So that could play into this. We would be tied if that game had played out and went Joel's way. We'll cover the Super Bowl of Suck. I haven't even scored it yet because it's not important right now. One more note of a video and a YouTuber I follow called Tom Grossi. He's a diehard Packers fan, but one of the things he does is reaction videos, like every fan's reaction to whatever. He did a reaction for Week 17, and he films the Sunday game's reaction on Monday before Monday Night Football, and then the way he wraps up, because he does that reaction, he says in the beginning, I filmed all of this on Monday. The start of the video is what I plan to release. Then he gets to the Bills and Bengals, the Monday nighter, and it kind of brought chills to my side, to me, and almost a tear, because it was just like, wow, to see it all kind of laid out the way it was laid out was really cool. So check out that video, Tom Grossi, every fan reaction to Week 17. It's only about a 5-6 minute video, so but very, very cool, very, very respectful, and great channel to watch. It's pretty funny. It is Packers heavy when you get into like his podcast and stuff, but good channel all in all. Anyways, yeah. So that, I guess that's the sports shuffle for today. Lighter times are ahead, hopefully, but for now, I'm flying Ryan Gilchrist along with.
Tampa Motormouth Joel Verone. Thank you all for watching.
Yeah, thanks for putting up with us. Hopefully, we're giving you some information that maybe you don't know, and providing a little bit of a distraction for anybody out there who probably could use one. Because if you follow football, it's a heavy time. You still feel it. But yeah, we'll be back Friday with hopefully even more of